And I was in Europe last week, and as you know, there was this massive blackout in Spain and Portugal because they're so reliant on renewable energies in places like Spain. And I read an article while I was in Europe that the rest of Europe, Italy, France, and others were this close to going into blackout right around the time of the Pope's funeral, which is why I was there, because they're all so reliant on this green energy that the Democrats tell us we should have here. What gives here?
Not surprisingly, most of the European Union has really bought into this Green Deal gamble. They have a more radical version of the Green New Deal called the European Green Deal. And had the United States not reversed course like we did, we would be seeing similar shocks in the grid like this. But Spain has wanted to go net zero by 2050. And not surprisingly, by mid-April, the country was bragging about being almost reliant on entirely renewable. So ahead of the grid crash, solar was primarily powering the grid, wind as well. So cumulatively with other so-called renewables, it was at 78% of their grid was dependent upon renewables. Bloomberg, which is not a fan of the president, said this is the first green electricity blackout of the era. So when you have someone from Bloomberg saying that, it goes to show that solar is not dependable. It's the most incompatible, unreliable energy source out there, working 25% of the year. And it's unsurprising to see blackouts, especially of the green variety, in a socialist country like Spain.
Yeah. So in the last minute we have, what's the lesson for America, you think? Maybe Trump was right again? And how do we undo? I mean, there's all this money in the pipeline that Biden and Harris were already putting in there. And I know like Lee Zeldin at the EPA is trying to undo some of this. But there's all this money committed to green energy, quote unquote, that as you just lay out in Europe, is a real problem. How do we make sure this doesn't happen in America?
Codifying much of the spending revocations that are going on across the agencies dealing with energy and these types of items would be the first step to ensuring this. But the president has posturing to promote reliable, abundant, secure energy, moving away from net zero posturing to phase out fossil fuels, only propping up energy sources that are feasible and that are not going to put shocks in the grid. But similarly, not having government picking winners and losers like the Biden admin did with picking and preferring solar and wind. And that is what Europe is failing to do here, to recognize that. But Secretary Chris Wright actually said in Poland last week that energy freedom can be imported to Europe from the United States. So hopefully our friends in Europe will follow our lead here.
Absolutely. Gabriella Hoffman, check her out on townhall.com. From the Independent Women's Forum, we appreciate your insight tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much.